I'm 17 years old. I don't have any finances. What are you talking about? But once you find out that it's over $20,000 a year, it gets a little daunting.
It's not guaranteed. You can go to college and get a degree, but at the end of the day, the colleges are the ones making the money, and you're left holding the empty bag, trying to get a career with a certificate. You know what I mean?
But even like you said, they had their full college experience and took it by the horns, but they still couldn't find something. And it's like, this is a possibility.
Welcome to the Post Show Podcast. I'm your host, John, the video guy. In today's episode, I sit down with Gabby Coker. Gabby is a photographer and videographer. She is a graduate from Ohio University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in digital communication and media multimedia. In our conversation, we talk about the reality of going to college to learn video and what to expect entering the workforce. There's a lot they don't teach you in college, and I'm excited to share this conversation with you because between my experience not going to college and Gabby's experience going to college, we share our unique perspectives from each side of the spectrum and what you really need to know starting a career as a video editor. But before we get into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to Riverside. I used Riverside to not only record this episode of my podcast, but I also used their Magic Clips feature to automatically generate short form pieces of content from the original podcast recording, saving me hours of time trying to trim down my footage. Now, if you want to learn more about Riverside, I will leave a link down in the show notes below for you to go check them out for yourself. You can start for free today using my link down below, and you can save using my coupon code TheVideoGuy at checkout to receive 15% off your order. Thank you, Riverside, and now without further ado, please welcome Gabby to the show. Gabby, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really nice having you on. I'm really excited for our conversation because I feel like, for me personally, I didn't go to college. I don't have that college experience. And I know you have the experience going through college, and being that we've worked together for almost a year now, I think it's been over a year and a half now. Yeah. I'd love to get your insight, and I think this is going to be a really valuable conversation about going to college, your experience going to college, entering the workforce, the differences, because I feel like a lot of times people don't know what to expect going into college. And then I know for me, I was wondering, do I even go to college? Because there's a lot of things you can learn online. So I'm excited for our conversation. Thank you for being on today's podcast episode.
Of course.
Before we get into it, the first question I wanted to ask you is, how did you get into video, multimedia? Why did you pursue this crazy career in video and photography and media?
It definitely started back in middle school, I wanted to say. I got a video camera and would just record vlog type situations. Never put them together in editing because I didn't have access to software like that, but I loved having my camera. And then in high school I got gifted an actual photography camera, and then started taking digital arts courses at my sophomore junior year, and fell in love with it. We would do the silliest of skits. It wouldn't even be, it's nothing I would want to put in my resume or my reel or anything like that. But once I moved to Columbus, I went to Dublin Jerome High School, and they have a fantastic media program. They do a morning announcement show, and you put together segments. We are all assigned into groups, and someone was a videographer for that week, someone was the editor, and someone was writing the script. And a lot of times I fell in the camera operator and the editor role, and I loved it. I had access to Adobe Premiere, and I got access to Photoshop at this time, and just really fell in love with editing and the real deal stuff. And yeah, once I figured out that you could do this as a career, I was I'm definitely interested in doing this, no matter what the road is like. I knew that I enjoyed it better than any of the regular classes, like math or anything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I kind of have a similar experience because I did the morning news. I went to Twinsburg High School, and there's like essentially a class where like there's morning announcements. You read the news, the updates in the school, and you do all the different parts. Like you can create intros, you can create different things for the news, lower thirds.
Yeah.
And it gets your hands dirty, you know, in all the aspects of video.
Right.
I was curious. What is it about video editing that you like the most? After all, this is the post-show podcast,
Yeah,
so what's your favorite aspect of video editing?
I like how it's like a form of art to me. I don't know. It's like the same situation as like sitting down to paint or like draw something. It's just you and the canvas, and you get to interpret whatever footage you're bringing in the way that you see it and try to put your own touch on things. And I mean, obviously if you're working for a client, you're gonna switch that up a little bit, but like just the creativity aspect of it is just so cool. And the end product, you know, however many hours you put into it and how many re-edits you put into it, and to see like a final product that like gives you chills or you just like can't stop smiling at it, like that's what I love about it.
Yeah definitely.
Yeah.
And you know, even like entering into the workforce, and like that's another thing you have to consider too. Like if you're just starting out and you're doing it as a hobby, is like people can do it as a hobby.
Yeah.
But then once you start having clients, you work for a business, it becomes more of a career. You know, you're making money doing it. You have to balance that creativity, like, you know, because it is fun, it's an art, but also you have to balance the business side of it.
Yeah.
And that aspect as well. And it's challenging.
It is challenging.
It is really challenging.
It is. Because you think that like what you show is like the best version of what you can make. And then if you get, you know, critiques, I mean, you have to learn to take those, obviously. But it's kind of like, oh, I really liked that version, or I really liked that part that we want to cut. But getting over that hump is a little tricky.
Yeah. You said you moved to Ohio. I was curious, where did you grow up from?
So
Where are you from?
I grew up in Tennessee. I'm gonna sound like such a like the classic interview. It was a small town. It was, believe me. Okay. But yeah, it was like a one red light situation, one red light town. Grew up there for like 16 years. It's an hour south of Nashville, and yeah, we moved to Columbus. What year was that? That was I want to say it was 2018 or 2017, one of the two. It's been a while. It still feels like when I tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, we moved up here like 3 years ago. And I'm like, oh, that's not the case.
How did you like the transition from Tennessee to Ohio? I'm just curious.
I miss the land and like the serenity of Tennessee, but I loved having everything near me, like within 10-minute drives, getting to the grocery store, even, you know, and shopping centers and stuff like that. So that made the transition pretty simple. And the school was just immaculate compared to what I was used to. So I think I adjusted pretty quickly and pretty well to it.
It's interesting because, like, I feel like, do you think you would have chose this as a career had you stayed in Tennessee? Because I feel like we're so formed based on our environment and surroundings. You might have not got access to like that media program, you know?
So that's what I've talked about this with my parents many times before, because I'm like, thank you for moving us up here. Because at the time I was like, I'm not moving 2 states away from all these people that I've grown up with. And my grandma still lives there. I was like, no. And then after realizing all the stuff that was up here, I thank them continuously, because I don't know what I would be doing, but I definitely wouldn't be doing like video at all. I know video photography, I might have a shot, because that's definitely a need down there with all the family portraits and the weddings and stuff. But I don't think that I would be doing that, which is sad to think about. But that's why I'm thankful that I'm up here. I'm good.
Yeah, it's always like, I'm always like that. Like, I always like to think like, what if that never happened?
Right.
And it's just so interesting to go like, and let your mind go like, wow, yeah, it'd be crazy if there's like a different reality.
Yeah.
You But yeah, so you did choose this as a career, and you decided to go to college, pursue it as a career, and you chose Ohio University.
I did.
I was curious, how did that process look in applying to colleges? Did you go with Ohio University right away? What was kind of like that search for a college, essentially?
Let's see, applying to college and trying to figure out where I wanted to go. I was already like thrown by moving up here because I was looking at colleges in Tennessee. So when we did come up here, I was starting from scratch, and I wanted to find anywhere with a good media program. Like that's all that I really cared about. OSU was the closest, and I want to stay a little bit close to home. So I looked into their programs, and they didn't have anything purely media driven for a major. You could do it as like a minor or like a certificate, but they didn't have like a media school. And this is at this point in time. I don't know what they offer at this point. But I was like, I'll still go look at it and still go see if the campus speaks to me. So I toured OSU, and I left the tour early because I just like didn't resonate with the campus at all. I think it was the city life part of it. Even though I moved to Columbus, it's still where I was living was still not city like that, and it was just very hustle and bustle, and I wasn't enjoying it too much. So I went back to the drawing board, and I saw that OU was one of the top 10 media colleges in the country. Again, at this point in time, don't know where they stand at this point. And I looked at their campus, and it looked very quaint and like pretty, and it reminded me kind of Tennessee and stuff. So we went and toured there, and the tour was incredible. They did a great job showcasing their school and what the media programs have to offer. They showed you all the rooms that you would like have your classes in, with big audio boards and all the editing bays and the gear shop with all the equipment that you could use for free. And it was like, whoa, this is another step up. It felt like I was seeing Dublin Jerome High School again, but on a bigger scale. And the campus I fell in love with. It was so quiet, but it seemed so homey. So I just kind of stopped my search, which some people thought was an out there decision, because I had only looked at OSU and then looked at OU, and I was like, I'm only applying to OU. I didn't look at anything else, didn't apply to anything else. I was like, I'm going with this. In the application process, I'm trying to like remember. I feel like I blacked out for a lot of it because it was so intense, I'm sure. But the big part of it was essays. I had to write an extra essay to get into like the honors program, and I was writing essays for scholarships and just an essay to like get in. And FAFSA is not fun. That was the least fun part of it. I don't know I guess you haven't been exposed to that either.
No. Yeah, what is that?
So that's like the loans and such. That, yes. So your parents have to put in their financial information and your financial information, and you're thinking, I'm 17 years old. I don't have any finances. What are you talking about? Yeah, it gets that's the worst of the process, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you have to do it every year. But anyways, I'm getting off track.
No, I think that's a good segue, because then my next question was like scholarships.
Yeah.
And like, were you nervous? Like, because, college is really expensive, and you have to either, pay out of pocket, find loans, scholarships. Like, what was your thought process going through all that?
I was definitely a little hesitant, because I knew growing up, my parents were like, we'll help you, but we want you to help pay for your education as well, and which is totally fine. I was working, I was ready to help in whatever way. But once you find out that it's over $20,000 a year, it gets a little daunting. But the loans were helpful. I'm trying to remember now, I think I got 3 or 4 scholarships, which was incredible. Like, I am so grateful still for those. You get some through the school, depending on what your GPA is in high school or what you scored on a test, or if you fit into a certain demographic category, they do those too. And they're minimal scholarships of like $2,000 for one semester, but it goes a long way. So I mean, I took whatever. It was rewarding though to win a couple of scholarships for editing and for photo and video. Those are the ones that like felt that I earned the most, because there was an arts council in Dublin, and I'm just thinking paintings. They want people who do art to submit their work to pay for schooling, or try to pay a little bit of schooling for anything related to the arts. And I was like, what I do is related to the arts. So I was like, I'll just throw like a reel together. I say throw it together. I definitely took a long time to make that. And they chose it, and they like had a whole section dedicated in their scholarship award program, where they were like, this is the first digital piece that we've ever given an award to, and it's opened our eyes to the fact that this is like a new form of art. And so that was cool to receive that, like, I guess, grant or scholarship from them.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's really nice to open, someone else the possibility of video and like show them that this is an art form.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's really cool.
Exactly. Thank you.
So when you were in college, you probably had internships, you worked on different projects. I was curious, what was the most exciting part of college? Which projects and different things were you exposed to that excited you the most?
In college, I got exposed to a internship based out of Columbus, because this was during COVID time. So I was doing my schooling at home. This was my sophomore year. And one of my teachers knew someone who worked at this media production like warehouse in Columbus, and they said they host this internship, and if you mention that you go to OU, they want you even more, because that's a lot of the staff was from OU. And so I applied to that, and I got it. So that was incredible. It was like I don't know how to describe it perfectly, but it was a big studio soundstage type of facility, and they had 3 different stages. They would film commercials there for like food companies, Bath and Body Works, eBay was there one time, and they're building like the massive RE Alexa cameras, and they're moving around so much grip just to like make one scene, and it really opened my eyes to how big this career can span. Like, you can be a one-person show if you want to do it yourself, or you can be on this big crew and doing huge projects like this. That got me connections too. I started working with a couple of people that I did the internship with and made like student films back at school when we started going back. So that opened my doors, and I still talk to some of those people to this day. I think if I was ever back in Columbus, I would reach out to them first for anything. So definitely a valuable experience. And definitely one of the connections that came from school that I am thankful for.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Throughout your experience, you're probably exposed to so many different parts, like you said, camera work, video editing, seeing all the different roles.
Yeah.
Was there a certain one that you gravitated to that you're like, or did you have like, you wanted to be an editor, at the very beginning? I was kind of curious because there's so many different opportunities. What's kind of like, when you got exposed to everything, did you kind of gravitate towards one thing like photography, videography, video editing? Was there a certain aspect that you pulled you? Yeah,
I wanted to have the camera in my hand. I love the editing aspect of it too. This is such a hard question, and I've been asked it so many times by like mentors, because they're like, what's your main interest? And I'm like, I can't, it's hard to pick, because I like both. I like being able to record it and take it to the editing bay. But I do really enjoy having the camera in my hand. That's, to me, the most fun part about it. And that really, I got to use that skill more so later in college, because I think when you're younger in college, no one's going to hand you the nice expensive camera and say, go do whatever you want with this. I got to do work for ESPN Plus at school, and that's where I got to be a cam op on the sidelines of basketball games and for wrestling matches and baseball. I was like, this is the best. I would totally do this and for a career, because let me tell you, editing for live TV, that is the next level. That is the quickest editing you'll ever see in your life. I'm sure you could do it though, but I can't. Yeah. That's why I'm I'd rather do the camera for that situation.
Yeah. I was going to say, you have to be on it when you're editing for live TV like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they do.
I can imagine being a camera operator for sports is really cool. It's very active. You're going back and forth trying to get the shot.
Yeah, it is. And you I don't know, you have a goal, your eye is on the action the entire time, like you said. You look at your watch and you're like, oh my gosh, it's been an hour. The game's almost over. It's cool. It's fun. And college sports of any kind are very high intensity, I feel. So it was cool.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I wanted to ask, what was the biggest thing you learned in college? You made the investment. Not only did you get all this experience, but I'm curious, what was the biggest takeaway? What's something you didn't know before entering college that you now know going through the whole program?
Yeah, definitely the most valuable thing that I learned through my 4 years at school was the fact that there are so many branches for this career. I got to really dip my toes in everything, in all the different aspects of from editing to photo to live work to to audio, just audio. If you feel that there's something that isn't speaking to you, there's so many other avenues to try. And that's what's, I think, really liberating about choosing this as a career, is there's always something new, always something different. You don't have to just be an editor all the time. And that's what I think is so beneficial versus, I don't know, a sit down, a regular job, I'll say, I guess, quote unquote. But it was cool to get to learn that. I feel if I didn't go to school and just tried to do the one thing, just tried to just do photo or tried to just do editing, I think I would have probably become a little more stuck, because I wouldn't have had my eyes open that I could do this, and this, and that I'm capable of this, and this.
Nice, yeah. I think college is great for expanding your horizons, see all the opportunities out there that you can grab at.
Yeah.
So you graduated, I believe, in 2023, correct?
Yes, yeah. I was trying to remember. It feels so long ago.
Yeah. So you entered the workforce. I want to know, what was the biggest shock, after graduation? Because there might be a lot of people in college that are, there may be a year or two away, or maybe they just started college. What can you tell them what to expect entering into the workforce and the world?
Nothing is going to happen instantly. I think college gives you a false sense of, as soon as you graduate, you're gonna have this lined up, and it's gonna come to you whenever you want it. They definitely instill chasing your dream and working really hard, but they also make it seem like it's a very quick return, and that is not the case. I was working a serving job for a while until I found my part-time job right now, and even then, that took a while to find. And I definitely think it's the advice I would give to someone, if you're a senior, even a junior, to be honest, start looking for things now. Start looking at the connections you have, reaching out to people and seeing if they're going to need help when you are graduated. That way you can have the confidence and the security of having something lined up rather than graduating when everyone else is graduating and trying to find work all in the same place. I think that our career gets very saturated in the job market very quickly. Like when people get employed in a creative field, they stay there for a while. We've talked about this before. And so it is hard to find new things. And you'll see the same job posting that's been up there for 6 months. And you're like, I've already seen this. You keep recommending this job to me so many times. Where's the new stuff? So I think being more proactive about it while you still have that security of school and try to line something up while you can, that's the move. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is definitely a solid point. There is no guarantees. And I think that was the biggest thing I saw, because like when I was in high school, so I took like a vocational class in my senior year of high school. And that's where I learned a lot of video, about video production, videography, video editing. And even we would have guest speakers that would come in and speak to us. And like, you know, they had some of them had a rough go, especially at the beginning, you know, trying to get their first jobs. And some of the alumni, you know, they tried but never got into the industry. Or even when I think about my class, a lot of them didn't. They changed careers, or it was too tough. They couldn't find the opportunities. And it's just something they don't really talk about, is like, it's not guaranteed. You can go to college and get a degree, but at the end of the day, the colleges are the ones making the money, and you're left holding the empty bag, trying to get a career with a certificate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, college is great, but I think unless there's opportunity, you know, that's the main thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it can give you opportunity. It just depends on how involved you get and how, I guess, serious you take the connections that you make, because it can definitely be lucrative, but it just depends on the effort, I think, that you put in. If I could go back, I wish that I would have had the COVID years to talk to more people and such. But even like you said, there are teachers and mentors that are guest speakers that you had that they had their full like college experience and took it by the horns, but they still couldn't find something. And I know people like that too, that work at the school that I went to in Dublin, and it's like, this is a possibility. And that's what's scary about it, for sure.
You mentioned the pandemic, and I was curious. So you started your college experience in 2019?
Yes.
So right before the pandemic started.
Yes.
How did the pandemic shape like your learning or like your college experience?
It definitely put a kink in the system, for sure. I was just getting comfortable. I was going to all my classes every day. I'd get up, bright and early and put on my nice clothes and such. And then once the pandemic started, I'm like, oh, I can go to school in my PJs and I don't have to see anyone ever. And it became a very secluded situation, It definitely got sad, and that sounds sad, but like I'm sure so many other people relate, because you go from being in your big lecture halls with 100 people and walking to class alongside tons of people, and I don't know, being in your dorm and whatever, and I'm just in my house, like where I've already spent the last 4 years of high school, or the last 2 years of high school since whenever we moved up here. But yeah, it was not the best learning environment, but I tried to make it work. Definitely classes were not giving you the same experience that you would have had in class, because they're all navigating it like we were, how to do online stuff and how to record lectures and do things digitally rather than pen and paper. So it was definitely, you feel like you were getting not the best bang for your buck. But I made it work. I definitely was second guessing school during COVID, but once I got to go back, that was great. It really is a different feeling when you're on campus and you feel more connected to the school and such. So I highly recommend going to college rather than the remote option.
Yeah,
Definitely
and
go.
it's interesting because, online colleges or the online schools are becoming more and more popular,
They
or even
are.
just like taking online courses.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I guess I had the luxury of not needing that. I know some people need whatever their life situation may be. The online school is great for so many people. I'm not dissing that. But for me, I like being there, being rooted.
Yeah. You experienced a lot entering the workforce, and there's a lot of things you learned in college, but there's a lot of things you didn't learn in college. I want to know specifically in post-production, video editing, what were some of the things you didn't learn, in the software, or things that you wish you were taught in school? I know I showed you a lot.
You did.
When
No, you did.
we're working together. What are the things they don't teach you in school, specifically when it comes to actually making videos in Premiere Pro?
I feel that they show you the most basic of basic. You've shown me so many shortcuts just with both keyboard commands and even just shortcuts that you do within the program, things that save time, and they teach you the most classic, just how to put the clips in the timeline, not how to finesse a clip, not how to add the effects to them and really bring out the best in what you have. It's just the bare bones. I wish that they would have taught me how to do more effects from scratch, how to do animation, and not even like anything crazy, not any like 3D animation, I'm just talking about like text animations, lower thirds, like that aren't just a line of text that like fade in or fade out. Like teach me how to do, like the ones that have the cool designs and stuff like that. That's what I like signed up for. How to do color grading. That was something I thought I would learn. Didn't learn any of that. And that was one of the things I really, really wanted to learn. I don't mean to speak too ill of OU, because to someone who's never exposed to video editing, I'm sure that they learned a lot, but definitely didn't get to the nitty gritty for me. And I definitely don't keep your project open on Premiere. That's what I learned. I had a teacher that told me to always just leave Premiere open and the project open at all times. And that is not, and just like create new sequences, like just sequence on sequence on sequence. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's very hard to find things.
Wait, so did you just have one project? So it was just like the project name was like 2025.
Yeah. Yes.
And then all of your projects were just in one Premiere Pro project?
Yes, and all of your source files, all of your music, all of just everything in one project. And it's so overwhelming. But she would get mad if you didn't do that. She had a whole system.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the system I have. Each project's in a separate folder, categorized by the date, the due date, event date. And each Premiere project is its own,
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Because, there's so many, especially say if you have as many projects as we do, like you have like 50 to 100 projects within one Premiere Pro project, not only the project file is going to get really huge, but it could crash a lot more. I think that's what people don't realize too. That happens with After Effects a lot. If you have a lot of compositions and stuff, the project file will get too big and sometimes it's too hard to open.
Yeah.
Like that happens with Photoshop too. If you add too many photos and things into a giant Photoshop file, it'll get to a point where it's almost impossible to open the file.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't recommend that.
No, yeah, don't. I totally listen to the expert over here.
Yeah. Now I am getting warmed up to the idea of having two projects open at the same time, which can be very helpful because let's say, for example, I was working on a project where I shot an interview with a person, but I have another project I worked on 3-4 months ago where I already sorted the B-roll of that person. So I opened up that project, and what's nice is having two projects open at the same time, you can go into the sequence of the other project, and since that B-roll is already trimmed, you can copy it and then go back to the other project within Premiere Pro and paste it into the other sequence.
Right.
It's not the best because it's weird how Premiere Pro puts that video clip in the other project, but it can save you time from trying to narrow down B-roll. Essentially, I think that's probably the best case in having actually multiple projects opened at the same time.
Right. I agree.
So if someone's wanting to get into this field, now knowing what you've been through college, through, entering the workforce, knowing how everything's going, what is your recommendation to them? Is it to still go to college? How would you recommend approaching this career?
I suppose it depends on what you personally value for yourself and your career. I was definitely more pushed to go to college from outside factors, but those 4 years can be really helpful for you if you nosedive into it and you use it to meet people and to try to set you up for success when you get out. But I think just taking it for what it is, college, meaning college and the classes and such, I think with this career, you could get by without it. I think that there's so much that you can learn now online and just really, it's trial and error. It's all creative at the same time, too. You can't teach that. You can learn technique and the technique behind everything and how to import footage and how to edit footage, the basics, and how to work the programs and such. But you can't teach the part that you're selling of yourself. Like, it's your creativity that people are buying when you're doing this as a job, and that's just something you can't teach. And I think you could save yourself time, money, and energy and put that just fully into your career, because with this career, not everyone wants to see a college degree. They care more about the experience. Some jobs do care about it, but I've seen a lot too that say bachelor's degree or equivalent experience, or or equivalent, and you give them your resume and they're like, oh wow, you did all this even without, or they see your reel and they're like, you've done all this without college. It's still, that to me also seems more impressive. So I think that I would recommend doing what is best for you personally, whatever you can afford or do, and manage yourself. But I think it's not a mistake if you choose to not go by any means. I think it gives you more time to hone in on your craft yourself and to not be guided too heavily, and to just learn what you want to learn, because it's all up to you. So yeah, that would be my take on it.
Nice. Awesome. Great perspective.
Thanks.
It's interesting because I always think of this one story. I think I was in high school, or I can't remember where I learned it, but like I remember someone, just to show how it's possible for anyone to get into this industry, is someone, I don't think they knew how to speak English, or they didn't understand how to actually read the software, and how they learned the software was just by opening it up and just clicking and dragging clips in and just applying effects and different things to it and just experimenting and just seeing how the different things worked in it. And over time, when you just understand how it works, all the skills just kind of build on top of each other.
Exactly.
So, at the very baseline, it's just a matter of getting your hands dirty in the software.
Exactly.
And then just also building those relationships and networking.
Yeah, that's the two pieces of, or the two ingredients you need for success in this career. Totally agree.
All right. So last question I wanted to ask you, what's your long-term goal? Now entering into the workforce, you're graduated. Do you want to become a full-time video editor for a company? Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to become a content creator, Gabby?
You really want me to become a content creator.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years, 5 to 10 years?
Oh, man. Okay. I would just love to be a freelancer, especially from watching you do your thing. Has given me even more of hope and like push to chase that dream, because it sounds crazy to think, oh, you can just be your own boss, but that's definitely it's definitely what I want to do. So many people that I know from college do the same thing, or they have a freelance business on the side. So I want to do, I do just want to hone in on a photo and editing. And both, I would do editing like video wise too, but I've really come to love like the photo world too. And I would love to work with that just full time, whatever that may be. I would photograph sports events. I would do real estate, like we've talked about. I've even seen like job postings for like automotive, like taking pictures of cars at the car lot and stuff like that. Just, I want to have something new and different to do every day and at every shoot that I go to. So I think owning my own company and just doing that completely full time is my dream, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's great. Best of luck to you,
Thank
Gabby.
you.
If people are interested and want to reach out and contact you, whether they want to work with you or get in contact, how can they reach out to you?
You can reach me by, I suppose, email and my social media too. I can send you the link to it, but it's the GC Productions, like on Instagram. Yeah, and that's also the name of my website as well.
Perfect. And I'll leave those links down in the show notes below. So if you guys are interested, be sure to check out Gabby's work and get in contact with her. Gabby, I want to thank you for being on the Post Show podcast. It was a pleasure having you on today.
It was fantastic talking with you, John. Thank you so much again for having me. It's really an honor.